ideas. And so I wrote them all down, and we just started doing it. I said, the thing is, the only way to do this really is to build a miniature set. So we built a 1/12 scale set, and then I didn't really. The only thing I did in a computer was, just learning Photoshop at the time. Really, was because at that time I think I was already starting to shoot digitally. I mean, once that was invented, I'm in. Right? And so we'd photograph the set, and then get the character or the characters that were going to be in it, and do the light and completely mimic the same lighting as it was used for the set, and then basically just cut that person out and put them in the photograph. And so really, it's not anything different that could have been done manually, so to speak. And so that's why that happened. Then that was the last series of photographs basically made at the time. And then I moved to Santa Fe and went through all that transitional stuff. And then the reason the sets in Santa Fe became miniatures because I had a really tiny studio, basically a garage again. And so I work within the space I have,
So that miniature set, is there forced perspective going on? Because it just seems like it's going to the vanishing point.
I don't remember. I guess looking at all the pictures, I would be reminded of it. But
kind of like Willy Wonka's hallway.
Well, no, I use wide angle lenses, really wide angle lenses. Again, because I mentioned about my vision thing, like I got from my mother. I mean, it's like that's how I see. Like,
well, you're a cinematographer, or
it's just there.
Well, I guess
I see everything in the room,
right?
I think, and that's just how I prefer seeing through a wide angle lens. That's how my vision works, and so it also that stretches out a little room,
right?
Now the last set I made, that the floor is over there. It's like 5 by 6 feet. I can sit in it to work. When the last series of I made while living in Santa Fe. So that set, I moved to what's called a 1/6 scale set.
Okay.
Now 1/12 scale is dollhouses and Hollywood sets, because you can find anything made that scale.
Right.
1/6 scale, I found out, unfortunately, is nothing except G.I. Joe and Barbie. They're 1/6 scale. 2 inches is 1 foot instead of 1 inch is 1. The math is easier if you do 1/12 scale. And so that's why basically there's not as many props for me to use unless I was going to make them in the 1/6 scale. But I like to work in a miniature. I mean, it doesn't really matter anymore. I've always just really been interested in the content and the picture and whatever it takes to make it. If I could make it a miniature, great. If I can do it out on location, if that's necessary to make it work, then that's what I would choose.
Yeah. So, what led you to leave Dallas after all those years and go to Santa Fe?
Well, it was really for nothing. Really just a change. Yeah. Growing up here, or we lived in Houston for a year, lived in Denton for 12. I mean, just a change. I was just sick of the climate. I wanted to. I really liked being outside, but I got tired of living in a place where in the summer they tell you whatever you do, don't go outside.
Right.
And just a break, and both of our children were graduating from college, and I thought, okay, and that probably wasn't the right time, but we did it anyway, and it was really a blast. It was great. Plus, the contemporary art world was really going through there, and I thought it'd give me an opportunity to kind of like meet some new curators. I mean, people that I grew up as an artist with were retiring or not living anymore, and it was an opportunity to do something that I had not done before. So Becky agreed. She's been great about being open to these moves, and and she enjoyed it. We really ended up having a great time. We met some really good people. The contemporary artists that were living there, we all got along. It was really a lot of fun until about 2010 or 11. The contemporary art world just moved away. All the other hundreds of biennials that started up, the art fairs, there wasn't ever a reason for people to come to Santa Fe anymore. Its time was up. And then for me, we stayed years later. It's a great place to live and work. I mean, you're working with doors and windows open. There's not, it's really wonderful. There's no distractions really. So and on the other hand, I wanted to see what it would do for my work. Again, it was another, I guess, example of me trying to find. I'm just never satisfied so much, and I don't know if that's a curse or a good thing, but I'm always trying, to be satisfied with my work.
It's hard.
It's everyone. Yeah, and I am. I mean, I'm kind of, like I say, I'm sort of more satisfied now than I've ever been because I feel I've finally had this freedom and this confidence to do what I know I can do. And having it being accepted by people that mean something to me, that make it important enough to continue to do, helps as well.
Right. Well, I think, I think the older we get, we live our lives with a lot more confidence and probably, torment less on what other people think.
Yeah.
And, I think you're probably reveling in getting to a place where you're, I don't care what you think. I'm doing this for me, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's true. I'm doing it, and it's coming from a real place for me, and that's what's always been real important. I mean, we're not making art in a vacuum. You want people to respond to it, And yes, do I want it recognized outside of Texas where I'm known? Yes. And if it is, it is. If it's not, I'm going to continue to do it. The sculpture thing I'm fortunate to whatever I happen to be doing, people respond to. Louis Grouchos, who's now the director in Austin at Laguna Gloria, where I'm making a sculpture for that. It's being enlarged now.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Laguna Gloria.
Yeah, it's so great out there. I mean, so those pieces are being made. There's also, and I don't think this is a secret, but we're working with the Nasher for something too.
That's great. If you go to my this podcast website, the background photo is Road Angel, which is a sculpture, a giant bronze of like a ~55 Chevy that has.
Oh, that's Terry Allen's.
Yeah, Terry Allen's, and he's got. I just thought, hey, here's something that's that is something that's kind of uniquely Texan. That piece is really, it has the Texas music, that that estaccato,
it's great. Well, Terry he's a really great artist. He's a great musician as well. But the foundry that Terry ended up using with that has also been used by his son, Bale Creek Allen. So now that's who's actually making my work. But if you look at Terry's piece from the back. And you go about, up to about maybe 20 feet before the water, and to the left just a little bit is where my work is going to be.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm excited. That's my first enlargement and first placement, outside of someone's little room.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful place. What we the past couple of years, we do these competitions with high school students, and they compete regionally, and then they advance to state. And it's been in San Antonio. This year it's in San Marcos, and we would always stop in Austin, break up the trip, and we would go to Laguna Gloria, and they would have programs set aside for the high schoolers to sketch out there in nature, do tours of the sculptures, and
Well, they have the school now.
I know it's tied to the Austin Contemporary, and but the grounds are just beautiful.
They're great. Well, have you been?
It kind of reminds me of like a small scale Texas version of Hearst Castle. It's just kind of perched there on a
it's a mansion, but it's not that mansion.
No, well, it was a man. Not
it's a mini mansion,
right? Yeah, not by North Dallas 2000.
No, or Hollywood,
right?
But I don't know if you've been recently, but it's all been cleared out.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, you can see the lake from Terry's Peak. You can see. I mean,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's why I went. Oh, okay. I don't mind back here now. I mean, so we can see it.
Yeah.
And Lewis is great, and wherever he goes, he makes these things happen. Site Santa Fe was a hopping joint. I didn't get to visit him while he was in Buffalo, but I'm sure he changed things in Buffalo. And now in Austin, I mean, he's got it going.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the sculpture. So you started out by, you were inspired by different, are they different emotions?
Yeah, for the most part, they were figurative. They were like human-like figures. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know why I was feeling so horribly physically, and which also affected me mentally. I mean, I knew about the financial stuff and about other things, but I didn't really know what was going inside my body, like cancer eating the shit out of me.
Oh my gosh!
I had lymphoma. I had stage 4 lymphoma.
Oh my!
And so I was like riddled with it, but I didn't know why I felt so crappy. It took 6 years. That's when my drawing started out. It was like 6 years before doctors listened to me. I mean, like really, they told me to take Pilates or manage my stress. And then when I went and had an MRI because my back was hurting so bad, I thought I always had back stuff from like high school football. Is when they discovered what it was. And so, but during those years before, I just felt like shit. I'm basically pretty positive. I'm resilient in emotions, right. And since sort of like studying, Buddhist philosophy and that, knowing that nothing's permanent, like you might have a really shitty hour and the next hour something amazing happens or whatever, I just made the work however I was feeling that day. So it's sort of hard to relate back to what I was thinking when I made those sculptures. But I just started making them. I didn't have a clue how to make it. There's a great art store in Santa Fe, and someone I know there, Michael, recommended that I try this stuff called paper clay because it was air drying. And I didn't plan on getting them cast. I was just going to use them for props.
Right.
Well, it ends up that paper clay is really cool stuff, and it air dries, and the heart is a freaking rock.
Right.
And so I'm just started making the figures and then photographing them in whatever little set that I've provided for them. Now I'm to the point that this work, the sculptures are kind of coming before the photographs, and then the work that you're looking at now that no one can see because we're on audio.
We're going to take photos. Will be posted.
That's right. Okay,
yes,
okay.
No worries.
It's okay. You don't have to. I'm just playing with the sculpture. I'm making a photo. I'm having a really great. I'm just taking the sculpture and then making a photograph with it, and it's hard for someone to say to themselves that you have a wit. But it has been written before, so I'll steal it, that I'm just letting whatever humor and wit I have to play with the stuff come out, and I'm not directing much of anything. I just think they're kind of, I like them to be, to have sort of an old world look in a way. Mm-hmm. So the lighting is dictated for that. But they're basically just, messing around with my sculptures that are already made.
Sure. And so, so one of your more recent projects was photographing them in their new homes. Am I understand?
That almost didn't get well responded. So my earliest work